So what matters, if I tell you that in 2015, at the peak of the market, there was 57.4 billion in sales volume. And if I tell you in 2020, during COVID, it dropped to 11.1 billion, all of a sudden the 26.3 billion starts to have some feel to it. You grasp what that kind of means. And in the same way, when you have a data set within real estate, the absolute numbers don't mean that much. It's the relationship that any one number has to the numbers that came before it and the numbers that came after it.
Yeah.
And most people in the industry rely on third-party data. I'm not a big fan of third-party aggregator data because the way that they collect data is a little suspect. But I think if you were able to procure and curate your own data set, that is a big head start. But very importantly, you need to use the same methodology for determining things consistently throughout the life of that data set. So for instance, if I ask you to come up with a cap rate, how are you going to do it? Are you going to use trailing 12? Are you going to use forward 12? What do you do with vacancies? Are you making projections? What kind of projections are you making? What's your stabilized vacancy factor? You look at all these things, and to the extent one person has one way of doing it, another has another way of doing it. Right. If you had a building with 10 apartments above a retail store, do you call that an apartment building? What do you call it, a mixed-use building? If you say, hey, there's a store on the ground floor in residential above, that's a mixed-use building. Well, let me tell you something. The Empire State Building has stores on the ground floor. You going to call the Empire State Building a mixed-use building, or is that an office building? How are you defining things? What's the basis upon which you're creating your data sets? And unless those data sets have been derived consistently over time, the relationship between numbers loses integrity completely. So the one thing that I love is I have data sets that go back 40 years that have been derived using the same exact methodology every year. So I know my data sets have high integrity. So we're applying AI models to these data sets to try to come up with predictive indicators of what metric or basket of metrics could potentially lead to a signal that the market's going to change. So it's a very, very exciting thing. We're on the brink of coming out with a bunch of reports that I think are going to be very, very insightful about what's happening in the market.